Okay, we're out here at Versailles State Park in the red zone. We've got some traffic coming up behind us. There's probably some other hunters coming out here scouting. But as you can see, this cornfield's been trampled pretty badly. We suspect a deer have been hiding in the corn, feeding, going back into the woods to bed, and then coming back out here in the daytime to feed and get water. Now if you look at this woods right over here, the same thing. We've got a lot of thick cover directly across from their feeding ground. So it looks like a good bedding ground. We're going to take a walk out onto both sides, see where the best place to put the stand. Finally out here on this horse trail. We haven't really seen a lot of evidence of deer at first. We saw one footprint in the last couple hundred yards. We haven't seen any scrapes or rubs, but if you look right down here, we got a corn cob, and that didn't just walk in here by itself. I assume a big deer carried it from the cornfield, which is about a football field that way. We're just going to keep walking on this trail and hopefully we find more sign.
I don't know what they call that little green stuff on the ground, but the deer definitely run in it. I've seen them in here, I've seen them in the blue zone in that same cover.
You notice right above me here, it's a classic Malaysian man trap. I'm sure this was set here by local cannibals to try to surprise the deer.
It looks like this might be some droppings.
Yeah.
It's a walnut hole that got shredded.
We're standing at the edge of the horse path here. I think we're going to walk down this little open area here. If you notice, it goes down the hill, and it looks like there might be a creek or some sort of water source down here. I want to go down here and check it out and see if we can't find some signs. Well, Ron and I just had an epiphany. Just up the trail a little ways, you could see a path that was beaten down through the woods and some of the underbrush leading off in this direction down towards the water we were just walking to. Well, we found the creek. It's right here behind us, but if you look just past the creek, you can see some homes and some barns and things like that. I think what we've just figured out is that path we saw going through the woods is actually a dog path, and that would explain the lack of deer sign in this area.
Well, right now I think a lot of the deer are still held up in the corn because it hasn't been picked. Once this corn's picked in this area, it'll compress the area that deer can stay and not be seen by approximately 70%. Then would be the time to be here looking for the deer. But that with a little hunting pressure, and I think you got the idea for success.
You know, as promising as this area has looked, we haven't seen any signs, no rubs, no scrapes, barely any footprints of deer. We did see one spot that might have looked like a scrape, but really it was so small and there's no footprint, we're not really sure. It looks to me though like I'm standing on a trail in a very deery area. I'm going to take a walk back through here. This is some of the green puffy foliage Ron was talking about earlier, and although it does kind of puff and make smoke colored dust or whatever you want to call it, it's actually very quiet to walk in. It cushions your step, it cushions the leaves, and the deer can't hear you coming.
Andy found himself a nice little scrape here. If you notice this little cedar tree, you'll see where the deer's even chewed on the branches and rubbed his horns against it some. So this is probably still an active scrape.
Dead squirrel.
Coyote or fox, whatever it was, sure made a meal out of Mr. Squirrel. Or wintergreen thorn bush here. You can see the ends of it have been bitten off by the deer. They take the very tips of them, wherever it's coming out nice and new, that's where they'll bite it. And if you look around, all these have been nibbled. If you notice, it's just the very end of the shoot is the part that the deer eat. You can really tell the difference on this one where the deer just incised that right off of there.
We're going to try another place. Moved to another area. We're a little bit further north on the northern edge of the state park, what they call the blue zone. We've been picked to hunt here in the blue zone many times since we've been here and had a lot of good luck, and it looks that way again. I mean, we just got here, we're doing some scouting like I said earlier, but if you take a look right here on the ground, you can see a lot of corn that's just been picked up and dragged over here, even with the husks and everything. Okay, and as you look right here behind me, you can see a good cut right through the woods where they've been coming across the road, across the ditch, and going in for bedding. I'm standing here directly across from the corn on the ground and the trail going into the woods. This is the cornfield directly across from our hunting area. And I know the camera can't probably pick it up, but right here on the ground I got a bunch of deer tracks. If you look right here, you can see where the ground's been torn up. as the deer are running through, going between their bedding and their feed site. And if you take a look up here at the corn, you can see where it's been eaten right off the stalk. Every kernel is gone. And you look, there's a lot of it around here that's been eaten. The deer just walk up here and it's a smorgasbord for them. Looking closer at it, kind of reminds you of Lindsay Lohan's teeth, doesn't it? Notice something right here above the corn that's been eaten and deposited here on the ground on the trail side of the road. Looks just like a deer print. That's a good omen.
Right across from this cornfield along this county road, there's dozens of trails where these deer have just beat this down in here. We hunted this area 2 years ago, and both of us collected 8-point bucks before 10 o'clock.
If you look right here to the left, you can see a power cut that goes along right down into the, basically down into the state park to the swimming area. We're just off one of the county roads here, and Ron actually had some good luck last year. He got a nice little buck, a couple of bends down through here.
We always come in on the power cut about 100 yards, and the vegetation's a lot thicker than it was last year, but boy, you can sure see where the deer have been walking through it.
If you take a look right here, you can see a big spot where a bunch of deer have been bedding down right here. As I take a step back, you can see the trail that goes right on into the woods, and who knows how far in it goes. Ron, I'm not sure, but this might be really close to where you got your buck last year. And as if you take a look right here on this tree, did you hear that? If you take a look right here on this tree, it's excellent sign of a big buck. Okay, you can see all the scrape marks where the bark's been peeled away. This is peeled away with the deer's antlers when they're trying to rub the velvet off from the spring growth. This is a really good sign. This tree is probably 4 to 5 inches in diameter, and the diameter of the tree has a direct relationship to the size of the deer. Wow, that was just amazing. There goes another one right behind you, Ron, going off the other direction. This is great. Anyway, this is amazing, Ron. This is exactly the spot where you got your deer last year. I matched it up with a photo I had saved on my iPhone. I saw this tree in the background and this ground cover that you used to hide yourself in last year. Now we both know, and our fans may not know, but we both know ground blinds or manufactured ground blinds are not allowed in state park hunts. So you got to utilize the cover that's here. One thing that you can't do here in the state park is use a man-made or manufactured ground blind. You are able to, however, use the natural habitat, natural surroundings to create as much camouflage for yourself as possible. So I want to give you a quick demonstration of how easy it is to camouflage yourself. Now you notice I do have camouflage pants on, but I have a solid black shirt on and a tan hat, and I'm not really that camouflaged, if you would, in the woods. But take a look as I step behind this narrow tree. Now, as we were standing just a few feet over by that tree with the rub on it, and as I was explaining the rub and I heard something, as we stepped up and turned around to walk away, a big buck got up and ran off. Now I want to walk over here behind Ron, and I want to show you an evidence of a big buck that's been in this area. Could very well be the same one that rubbed on the scrape, or that made the rub on the cedar tree, but I'm not sure. All I know is it's a big buck, and we're going to show you why in just a second. Okay, we're right across from where we just saw the buck, and right across from where Ron got his deer last year, and the rub that was on the tree. When you see the rub, they're actually on the tree, the bark scuffed up. The scrape on the ground is a deer's calling card. Usually relevant to the size of the antlers again. The deer will scrape out a pattern. The bigger the pattern, the bigger the bare spot, the bigger the antlers. And this is a huge deer because this is roughly 3.5 to 4 feet in diameter. They use it to leave their scent. They use it to attract other deer and to warn other bucks to stay away. So it's to call the doe in, is to keep the bucks away. Oh man, was that cool. You know, wow, we're both out of breath. We just came back from the scouting mission there down the power line cut, and I think it was a success. We saw 2 big scrapes, 2 big rubs, a line of rubs and scrapes. They're all in a line. They go along those mountain bike trails. I think this is going to be a good place to either set up a ground blind as far as natural habitat, or maybe get a tree stand and try to find an open area within those woods. Although it's pretty thick, I think the ground might be our best option.